I watched my mother-in-law hand-wrapped presents to every single child at my daughter's 7th birthday party except mine. One by one, she called names: Olivia, Jackson, Emma, Liam, smiling as each kid ran up to collect their gift. My daughter Claire stood beside the cake table in her purple birthday dress, waiting for her name. It never came. The room held 12 kids total. 11 now clutched colorful packages. Claire looked at me with confusion spreading across her face, then back at her grandmother. "Grandma?" she said quietly. "Did you forget mine?" My mother-in-law, Patricia, turned toward her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, sweetie," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "These gifts are for the children who are really part of our family." The room went silent. Parents stopped mid-conversation. My husband Brandon stood frozen by the snack table, pretending he didn't hear. Claire's bottom lip started to tremble. That's the moment everything changed for me. The other parents exchanged looks. Some stared at their phones suddenly. Others grabbed their kids' hands a little tighter. I saw Claire's best friend Mia whisper something to her mom, who looked at me with pity I didn't want. My father-in-law William stood beside Patricia, nodding like she'd just announced the weather. Neither of them looked at Claire. My daughter stood there in front of everyone, the only child without a gift at her own birthday party. Her hands twisted the edge of her dress. I could see her trying not to cry, trying to be brave, trying to understand what she'd done wrong. One of the other kids, a boy from her class, asked his mother in a voice that carried across the room, "Why didn't Claire get a present?" His mother shushed him quickly. Patricia began directing the other children to a corner to play with their new toys. She moved around my daughter like she was furniture, invisible. I looked at Brandon, waiting for him to say something, waiting for him to defend our daughter, waiting for him to tell his parents this wasn't acceptable. He met my eyes for half a second, then looked away. He forced a laugh that sounded hollow and walked over to Claire. "Hey, birthday girl," he said, voice too cheerful. "You'll get your presents later, okay? Let's do cake now." Claire wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "But everyone else got theirs now," she whispered. "Why can't I?" Brandon patted her shoulder awkwardly. "Just how it worked out, kiddo. Come on, let's sing happy birthday." He started moving toward the cake like nothing happened, like his parents hadn't just publicly humiliated his daughter in front of her classmates and their families. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't confusion anymore. This was a choice he was making. The party continued like a machine nobody knew how to turn off. Kids played games, Patricia organized, all using the toys she'd brought for everyone except Claire. Parents sang happy birthday while Claire stood in front of her unicorn cake, tears streaming down her face that she kept wiping away. She didn't make a wish. She just blew out the candles because everyone was staring, waiting. I cut the cake with hands that wanted to shake but didn't. Patricia took photos of her grandchildren playing together, calling them over one by one. She never called Claire. When I checked my phone later, I saw she'd already posted some pictures online with the caption, "So blessed with these beautiful grandbabies." Claire wasn't in a single photo. I found a text message from 3 weeks ago that I'd somehow missed, from Patricia to Brandon. Confirmed with the toy store, 11 gifts. That should cover everyone. They'd planned this. They'd counted the children who would be there and deliberately bought one less gift. I couldn't watch anymore. I walked over to Claire and took her hand. "Come on, sweetheart," I said quietly. "Let's go home." She looked up at me with relief flooding her face. "Can we?" she asked. "We don't have to stay?" I shook my head. "No, baby, we don't." I grabbed our coats while parents watched us leave. Some looked uncomfortable, others looked away. My mother-in-law was laughing with the other kids, not even noticing we were packing up. Brandon followed us to the door. "You're leaving?" he asked like it wasn't obvious. "You're really going to make a scene?" Make a scene. Like I was the problem. Like his mother hadn't just told an entire room of people that our daughter wasn't really family. "I'm taking Claire home," I said. "You can stay if you want." He stood there, torn between his parents and us. He stayed. We left. In the car, Claire was quiet for 3 blocks. Then she asked the question that broke something inside me I didn't know could break anymore. "Mommy," she said in a small voice, "why don't Grandma and Grandpa love me?" I had to pull over because my hands started shaking. I turned around to look at my daughter in her booster seat, still in her birthday dress, face streaked with tears and chocolate frosting. "Baby," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "This is not about you. This is about them. You didn't do anything wrong." She nodded, but I could see she didn't believe me. How could she? She just watched her grandmother give presents to every other child while looking right past her. "Is it because I don't look like Daddy?" she asked. My heart stopped. I'd never said that to her. Never even hinted. But somehow she knew. Somehow she'd felt it. My phone started buzzing before we even got home. Text after text after text. "Brandon, you embarrassed my parents in front of everyone. Patricia, I hope you're happy ruining a perfectly nice party. William, your behavior was completely inappropriate." I stared at the messages while Claire watched TV inside, still in her party dress. They were angry at me. At me. For leaving after they humiliated my daughter. For not sitting there smiling while they treated her like she didn't exist. The audacity was almost impressive. Then my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi. This is Kelly, Jackson's mom from the party. I'm so sorry about what happened. I thought you should know there's a family group chat that you're not in. My sister-in-law is friends with your husband's cousin and sent me screenshots. I think you need to see them." The screenshots showed messages going back 3 months. "Patricia, are we really expected to treat her daughter like our own grandchildren? William, she doesn't even look like Brandon. How are we supposed to bond with her? Brandon's sister Angela. I mean, we all know she's not really ours." And then Brandon's responses. Not defending Claire, not defending me. Just laughing emoji after laughing emoji. "LOL, Mom, you can't say that." "I know, but still. She does look nothing like our side." They'd been mocking my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter, behind my back in a group chat I was deliberately excluded from, and my husband had been participating. Not just allowing it, actually participating. There were dozens of messages. Years of them, Kelly told me. Her sister-in-law had been in the chat the whole time and felt sick about it but didn't know how to say anything. Until today. Until she watched it happen in person. When Brandon came home that night, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open. "We need to talk," he said, using his reasonable voice. The one that made me feel like I was overreacting before we even started. "Yeah," I said. "We do." I turned the laptop around so he could see the screenshots. Watched his face go pale. "Where did you get those?" "Not I'm sorry. Not her. That's not what it looks like. Just where did you get those? Does it matter?" I asked. "Is any of it untrue?" He sat down heavily, started with excuses. "You have to understand, my parents have traditional ideas about family. They just never really bonded with Claire because she doesn't look like me. They don't mean anything by it." I stared at my husband, the man I'd been married to for 9 years. "They've been treating our daughter like she's not part of the family since she was born, haven't they?" He didn't answer. "Haven't they, Brandon?" Everything clicked into place like puzzle pieces I'd been forcing into wrong spaces for years. Claire's first birthday, when Patricia brought gifts for her other grandchildren but gave Claire a card with $5 inside. The Christmas, when every other grandchild got personalized stockings, but Claire got a generic one from the drugstore. The family photos where Claire was always positioned on the edge, easy to crop out. The comments about her hair being so different and her eyes being unusual. The way Patricia introduced her other grandchildren by name but Claire as Brandon's daughter. It wasn't just today. Today was just the first time they'd done it publicly enough that other people noticed. The first time they'd been so blatant, I couldn't pretend it wasn't happening. I'd been making excuses for them, telling myself they were just old-fashioned, telling myself it would get better, telling myself I was imagining things when Claire came home from their house quieter than she'd left. The next morning, Patricia posted the party photos on her social media. Bright, cheerful images of children playing, opening presents, eating cake. The caption read, "Yesterday was such a beautiful day celebrating with my precious grandchildren. So grateful for these moments with the family. #blessed, grandma life, family first." I counted the photos, 15 of them. Claire wasn't visible in a single one. Not by accident. I could see the edge of her purple dress in 2 photos. carefully cropped out. In one picture, you could see half of her hand reaching for a piece of cake. The rest of her was cut from the frame. Within an hour, people started commenting. Friends who knew Claire existed. Parents from the party. "Where's Claire?" someone asked. "Wasn't this her birthday party?" Another comment. "Did Claire enjoy her day?" I watched Patricia ignore them, delete them, block the people who asked. Then my college roommate Amy commented, "Interesting that the birthday girl isn't in any of these photos, almost like she wasn't there." Patricia couldn't delete that comment fast enough because people had already seen it. More questions poured in. I made a decision. I replied to Amy's comment with 4 sentences. Claire was there. It was her 7th birthday party. She was the only child who didn't receive a gift from her grandparents. Then we left. That's all I said. No anger, no accusations, just facts. Within minutes, the post exploded. People I'd never heard of were commenting, sharing, asking questions. Patricia tried to control it, deleting comments, blocking people, but screenshots were already circulating. Someone shared the post to a parenting group with 30,000 members. The story spread. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends calling, my own parents demanding to know what happened, co-workers sending messages of support, and Brandon's family calling me vindictive. A liar, unstable. His sister Angela posted on her own page, "Some people will do anything for attention, including throwing family under the bus and making up stories to play victim." The irony was almost funny. The turning point came from someone I barely knew. Brandon's Aunt Diane, his father's sister, who I'd met maybe 5 times at family events. She was in her 70s, sharp as a knife, and didn't use social media much. But someone must have shown her what was happening because she commented publicly on Patricia's post before it got taken down. This is exactly why I stopped attending family gatherings 15 years ago. Patricia and William have always had a cruel streak toward children they deem outsiders. I watched them do it to my daughter-in-law and her children. I'm glad someone finally had the courage to say it out loud. The comment sat there for 20 minutes before Patricia could delete it. Long enough for dozens of people to screenshot it. Long enough for the floodgates to open. More people started sharing stories. An ex-daughter-in-law from a cousin's divorce. A foster child who'd spent one holiday with the family. All describing the same pattern. The same cruelty dressed up as tradition. By evening, 3 more relatives had spoken up. One of Brandon's cousins, someone I'd thought was firmly on Patricia's side, posted her own story about how Patricia had refused to acknowledge her adopted son as real family for years. Another cousin shared about watching Patricia give her biological grandchildren birthday money while telling the stepchildren there wasn't enough to go around. A former neighbor described watching the family dynamics at a block party and feeling disturbed by how Claire was treated differently. The comments kept coming. People weren't just supporting me anymore. They were sharing their own experiences of watching my in-laws play favorites, exclude certain children, make cruel distinctions between who counted as family and who didn't. Patricia's carefully constructed image as the warm, loving grandmother was crumbling in real time. She deleted her entire social media account by 8 p.m. Every post, every photo, every comment. Gone, like she could erase what people had seen. Brandon came home looking like he'd aged 5 years in a day. "My mother is devastated," he said. "She's crying. She's humiliated. Do you understand what you've done?" I was packing Claire's lunch for school the next day, cutting sandwiches into triangles the way she liked them. I didn't look up. "What I've done?" I repeated. "Your mother humiliated our daughter in front of her entire class. Your mother has been excluding Claire from family since the day she was born. What I did was tell the truth when someone asked a question." He slammed his hand on the counter. "You destroyed her reputation. You made our private family business public. You've turned everyone against my parents." I set down the knife, looked at my husband directly. "Your parents destroyed their own reputation by treating a 7-year-old child like she was worthless. I just stopped covering for them." He stared at me like I was a stranger. "I don't even know who you are anymore." "I'm Claire's mother," I said. "That's who I am." That night, after Brandon went to bed angry, I sat in Claire's room and watched her sleep. She looked peaceful. She didn't know yet that I'd blown up my marriage and probably our entire life as we knew it. She didn't know that half of Brandon's family was calling for my head while the other half was finally speaking truth. She just knew that today, for the first time ever, someone had stood up for her. When she asked me earlier why we left the party, I'd told her the truth in a way a 7-year-old could understand. Because Grandma was unkind to you, and we don't stay in places where people are unkind to us. She'd thought about that for a long time. Then she'd hugged me and said, "Thank you for picking me, Mommy." That's when I knew I was making the right choice, no matter what it cost me. I started looking at apartments the next morning, small ones I could afford on my salary alone. I moved us out 3 days later, not far, just to a small apartment across town, close enough that Claire could stay in her school, far enough that Brandon's parents couldn't just show up. Brandon tried to talk me out of it, said I was overreacting, said we should go to counseling, said his parents wanted to apologize and make things right. What kind of apology? I asked. The kind where they're sorry they got caught, or the kind where they're sorry they hurt Claire? He couldn't answer that. The truth was, Patricia and William hadn't apologized at all. They'd sent a text through Brandon saying they were sorry I felt hurt and that they never intended any harm. Non-apologies. The kind that put the blame back on the person they'd wounded. I told Brandon I'd consider reconciliation when his parents could give Claire a real apology, a real acknowledgement of what they'd done. He said I was being unreasonable, setting impossible standards. That's when I knew this marriage might be over. 2 weeks after the disaster party, I threw Claire a do-over birthday celebration. Nothing fancy. Just pizza, a small cake from the grocery store bakery, and her 3 closest friends from school. No gifts required. I told the parents the situation briefly and asked them to please just bring their kids and a birthday card, if they wanted. We met at the park. Claire wore jeans and her favorite shirt with planets on it. We played on the swings, ate pizza on the benches. The other kids sang happy birthday without anyone forcing it. And when it was time for cake, all 3 of Claire's friends pulled out cards they'd made themselves, hand-drawn pictures, crayon messages about friendship. One of them had written, "You are the best friend ever," in purple marker. Claire looked at those cards longer than she'd ever looked at any expensive toy. That night, she told me it was the best birthday she'd ever had. Not because of what she got. Because of who was there. Because of who chose to show up for her. A month after we moved out, Patricia and William showed up at my workplace. I work at a dental office doing billing and insurance. They walked right past the front desk and into my small office like they owned the place. "We need to talk about this situation," Patricia announced. "It's gone on long enough." I looked at them standing in my doorway. "You need to leave. This is my workplace." William stepped forward. "We're not leaving until you listen. You've poisoned our family against us. You've turned our son against us, and you're keeping our granddaughter away for no reason." "No reason?" I repeated. "You publicly humiliated her at her own birthday party." Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "That's in the past. We're ready to move forward. We're willing to let bygones be bygones if you'll stop this nonsense and bring Claire to Sunday dinner." Let bygones be bygones. Like it was nothing. Like Claire's heart breaking in front of a room full of people was just water under the bridge. I stood up from my desk, kept my voice level and professional because my coworkers were listening. "Here's what moving forward looks like. You will apologize to Claire directly, not through me, not through Brandon, to her face. You will acknowledge specifically what you did and why it was wrong. You will explain to her that she is just as much your grandchild as any other child in this family. Do that, and we can talk about rebuilding." Patricia's face went red. "Apologize to a child? That's absurd. We don't owe her an apology. She's 7 years old. She'll forget about this in a week." "Then you won't be seeing her," I said. William's voice got hard. "You can't keep her from us. We have grandparent rights. We'll sue you if we have to." My office manager appeared in the doorway. "Is everything okay here?" Patricia pointed at me. "This woman is keeping our granddaughter from us illegally. She's alienating our son from his family." "I'm going to have to ask you to leave," my manager said firmly. "This is a place of business." William refused to leave, not until she agrees to be reasonable. My manager called building security. Within 5 minutes, 2 security guards were escorting my in-laws out of the building while Patricia shouted about grandparent rights and family court. The whole waiting room watched. Patients stared. It was humiliating and vindicating all at once. After they left, my manager pulled me aside. "Do you need to file a police report?" she asked. I hadn't thought about it. But she was right. This was escalating. That evening, I went to the police station and filed a report for harassment and trespassing. The officer who took my statement was kind. She asked if there was a pattern of behavior. I showed her the screenshots from the group chat, told her about the party, about showing up at my work. She documented everything. "You might want to consider a restraining order if this continues," she said. "Especially if they're threatening legal action. It shows a pattern." I took her card. The next day, Brandon called me crying. His parents were devastated that I'd involved the police. How could I do this to them? Time passed. Weeks turned into months. Brandon and I separated officially, started the divorce process. He wanted joint custody of Claire. I agreed, with one condition. His parents couldn't be around during his parenting time until they apologized properly to Claire. He fought it. His lawyer fought it. But I had documentation, screenshots of the group chat, photos from the party, the police report, statements from other relatives about their pattern of behavior. In the end, the judge agreed with me. Brandon could see Claire on weekends, but his parents were not permitted during visits until family therapy was completed and they made genuine amends. Patricia and William were furious. They blamed me for destroying the family. Meanwhile, Claire was getting better. She saw a therapist who helped her understand that her grandparents' behavior wasn't her fault. She made new friends at school. She stopped asking why people didn't love her. She started laughing again. Really laughing. The kind that comes from a kid who feels safe. 6 months after the birthday party, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "This is Patricia," the voice said. Stiff, formal. "I'd like to speak with Claire, to apologize." My first instinct was to say no. But I'd told Brandon this was what it would take. "What kind of apology?" I asked. "A real one, where you take responsibility for what you did and don't make excuses." Silence. Then, "Fine." We met at a park, neutral territory. I sat on a bench 20 feet away while Patricia sat with Claire at a picnic table. I couldn't hear everything they said, but I watched Claire's face, watched Patricia's hands shake as she spoke, watched Claire listen, then nod slowly. When it was over, Claire came back to me and took my hand. "She said she was wrong," Claire told me quietly. "She said I'm her grandchild and she should have treated me better. She said she's sorry." I looked at Patricia. She looked older, smaller somehow. I didn't forgive her, but I nodded. It was a start. Patricia and William started seeing Claire once a month. Supervised visits at first, with me present. They brought her small gifts, asked about school, tried to connect. It was awkward. Painful sometimes, but it was effort. Real effort. They'd lost most of their family relationships. 3 of Brandon's cousins no longer spoke to them. Aunt Diane made it clear they weren't welcome at gatherings she hosted. Their reputation in their social circle never recovered. People remembered. The story had spread too far. Brandon and I never reconciled. Our marriage had been built on me making myself smaller so his family could stay comfortable. Once I stopped doing that, there was nothing left to stand on. He married someone else 2 years later. Someone his parents approved of immediately. But here's what mattered. Claire grew up knowing her worth. Knowing that when someone treats you as less than, you don't have to accept it just because they're family. Knowing that love isn't about biology or appearances, it's about who shows up, who chooses you, who protects you. Claire is 12 now, happy, confident, surrounded by people who celebrate her exactly as she is. She has a relationship with Patricia and William, but it's on her terms. She knows what they did. We've never hidden it from her. And she's forgiven them in the way kids do, carefully, with boundaries still in place. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled everything. If I should have stayed quiet, handled it privately, kept the peace. I tell them the truth. I regret not standing up sooner. I regret every time I made excuses for people who hurt my daughter. I regret the years I spent trying to earn acceptance from people who would never give it. But I don't regret leaving that party. I don't regret telling the truth. I don't regret choosing Claire over keeping everyone comfortable. That birthday party wasn't the moment my daughter learned she wasn't wanted. It was the moment she learned her mother would always choose her. And that's the gift that actually mattered, the one that changed everything. The one worth fighting for.